But of course, most of them are developed by smaller teams that might not have much experience in the industry, using a lot of preset assets and AI these days, let's be honest. So the quality of most games might be questionable. But the lack of quality in these games end up being a feature, not a bug. That's why they generate memes. Many bugs can result in weird or crazy moments that make players laugh and share on social media. All of that factors in the hype and awareness for those games. There's always a new Friendslop game hitting the market as we speak and getting all the attention on Steam and maybe the other storefronts as well. For a week, maybe two, and they vanish through oblivion like cosmic dust, only to be replaced by the next Friendslop. Among Us, Fall Guys, Human Fall Flat, Peak, and now of course, Meccha Chameleon. These are almost always low-budget, multiplayer, humorous games made by small teams in hopes of breaking the market for the win. Most, however, never do that, because the ones we hear about are the singles, the dozens among the thousands of games that never get their moment under the sun. But the discussion that I want to bring here is like, are these Friendslops good for the market? Are they good for the developers making them? And are they good games at all? I see a lot of people criticizing them as a whole, like just another Friendslop. But honestly, you can say that about pretty much any genre. There's a lot of games out there. There's tons of first-person shooters, tons of RPGs, tons of platformers, tons of horror games. So these low-budget, chaotic, funny co-op games are just one more in the mix. Hey guys, it's Harry. I've been a game designer and producer for the past 11 years, and making games is hard. That's gonna be a pretty important statement for this video, so keep that in mind. Then let's talk about Friendslops, what they mean, what they are, and why there are so many of them. There were almost 21,500 games released on Steam in 2025 alone. Yep, you heard it right. That's 400 games per week. When you enter Steam's front page, can you actually spot 400 games displayed there? No, which means that's a lot of games, and discoverability is a real issue. Making games is hard. Most teams developing games are not professional ones with dozens or hundreds of developers, but many times a single person, 3 or 4 people perhaps. These are people with a dream of making games for a living and a passion for gaming, just like myself, and maybe you too. Back in the day, Jonathan Blow released Braid. That was 2008, and it's mainly considered the ascension of the indie games as we know them. Braid was a huge success. Seemingly everyone was talking about it, and it was mostly developed by a single person. That sparked the dream in a whole generation of game makers to create their own indie hit, a small game that could take the market by storm and make millions of dollars. Braid was succeeded among others by Super Meat Boy, a frantic platformer with very hard levels developed by a big team of exactly 2 people. Once again, huge success. The developers overnight saw a pile of money fall into their bank accounts. They could buy a big house, a fancy car, and that was a happy ending. These games were not Friendslops, but they were big examples in an ecosystem where a couple of people make a small game and get rich. Who doesn't want to do that? The problem is that even Braid and Super Meat Boy are fairly complicated games to make. They are nicely animated, they have intricate levels and this unique visual style. With ever more games coming to Steam every year, every month, indie games have less and less chances overall of becoming hits. Discoverability is one of the biggest problems in the industry. Ubisoft has endless amounts of money for the marketing campaigns of the new Assassin's Creed. And want it or not, you will stumble upon the new trailer for Fortnite or GTA 6. But small developers don't have a marketing budget. If at all, it's a modest amount that will most likely not make a dent in the market. Getting press coverage is hard because journalists already have those 21,000 games to cover, remember? So the option becomes to lower the budget and make games that look kinda generic, low poly, with many reused assets. Developers do what they can to create a game while saving as much money as they can in the process. But because of that, these low-budget graphics even became a style itself. We are in the Roblox era, so many people, and not only younger people but also adults, are attracted to graphics that feel more authentic. AAAs are all going hyper-realistic, and in their own way, they also become generic and boring. The unpretending art style of Friendslops also sends a message that this is a different kind of game, not the same old boring cash grab you'll find in a lot of bigger titles these days. But then naturally, the games are called Friendslops. You need friends to play, or at least the games are made for you to enjoy more with your friends. But why? Most games these days are not couch co-ops, like we used to have a lot back in the day. Well, that is precisely the reason, because these days publishers don't like to invest in casual co-op games. It is overall much more profitable for them to make online games that can connect millions of people and don't require friends directly playing in your house. After all, it's a single copy of the game being played by many people. In online games, each one gets a copy, so more sales, more money. But there are still a lot of people that want those casual, fun experiences with their friends, and they are clearly underserved by bigger publishers. That creates a perfect gap for smaller developers to fill, increasing the likelihood that a game like that could find success in the market. Then, I think those Friendslop games are indeed a good option, especially for small developers. Among Us was developed by 3 people. Peak had 7 main developers, and Human Fall Flat was created by a single person. It's a way to approach an underserved market, even though it may not be as underserved today, and provide something different and unique for players. In the age of social media, games that can organically generate a lot of memes and grab the attention of streamers might have much higher chances of success, at least to some degree. And if it weren't for those games, the current generation of players would not have a lot of games to play with their friends, especially more casual ones. But of course, most of them are developed by smaller teams that might not have much experience in the industry, using a lot of preset assets and AI these days, let's be honest. So the quality of most games might be questionable. But the lack of quality in these games end up being a feature, not a bug. That's why they generate memes. Many bugs can result in weird or crazy moments that make players laugh and share on social media. All of that factors in the hype and awareness for those games. Design-wise, those games consist most times of a single, unique premise that all the game revolves around. For Meccha Chameleon, it's a hide-and-seek game that you get to choose your hiding spot and paint yourself to blend in with the environment so the seeker doesn't find you. That is a concept that I believe was never explored, maybe in any game in history, at least that I've heard of. And that is precisely why it generates funny moments that people share online. So much so that it burst the bubble and it became a whole internet meme for a while. Even brands use that to promote their products or just some kind of marketing campaigns. But as a developer, that's almost entirely out of your control. You can intentionally create designs in your game that foster that kind of mechanic and memes, but you cannot control the public's reaction. That's why I said the games we hear about are the dozens among the thousands being made that nobody ever plays. So overall, I'd say for players to value Friendslops in a sense, at least the ones that are marginally good. Because those games will never ever come from your favorite AAA publisher. It's just not worth their time to invest in projects like that. And the gaming industry is all about diversity. It's like films. There should always be something for everybody. I am personally not a fan or a big player of these crazy co-op games, but I'm glad that they exist. They bring fresh ideas to the market, many times starting in game jams all over the world, those hackathons of game development. A lot of unique game concepts came from game jams, which is great to see. Game development today is more affordable than ever before, and that's a good thing. It does create problems like discoverability that we mentioned, and maybe most games will not have incredible quality, but that's for the players to judge. Smaller teams will almost never have the means to compete with AAA companies, and they should not even try, honestly. AAA is a mess. That's why the last few years have been filled with mass layoffs one after the other. When Braid came out in 2008, it was the start of an era called Indie-pocalypse, because so many people started making their indie games. And I think now the AAA market is shaking and they don't know what to do about it. It's the perfect timing for another indie era, where smaller developers can find their place and voice on the market. So yeah, those are my thoughts, but what do you think? Do you play a lot of meme games with your friends? Or do you think it's annoying to see them flooding the market and YouTube every now and then? Let me know in the comments below, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.